The landowner is called Joan Scentliver.
Thank you. Scentliver? Is that how you say that?
Yes.
All right. Good morning.
Good morning.
Go ahead and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to provide is true and accurate?
I do.
Mr. Joy?
Please state your name.
Joan Scentliver.
And Ms. Scentliver, are you a owner of property in Kossuth County, Iowa, that is presently being targeted by Summit's proposed hazardous pipeline?
Yes.
And throughout this process, did you cause to be created and filed what's known as pre-filed written testimony along with some exhibits or attachments?
Yes.
And if we were to go through those same questions, would your answers be substantially the same as the ones you provided in your written testimony?
Unfortunately not. If I could see better and if I were better at tech, I would probably have changed because new information came in the last month. This was filed early, I think in July 20th or whatever. And since then, a lot of the stuff in my pre-filed said I did not know who the investors were. Well, since then, I've found out that CPG Rise is, is backed by the Chinese Communist Party. I also found out that there's 384,000 acres owned by the Chinese. That's U.S. Department of Agriculture. So that changes everything. Plus the testimony by Ms. Chow, was that her? I mean, she nailed it. She talked about just exactly what the Chinese do. So no, my testimony would be different in many areas. A lot of it would be the same.
And just to establish, and not to embarrass you at all, but you are visually impaired, and it is difficult for you to see things clearly. Is that fair?
I'm blind in one eye. The other eye is legally blind. And yes, I'm disabled. I'm 76. I'm a widow. I have full-time care. Yes.
Okay. And so just to be clear, as we go through this process, if people ask you to look at the screen and whatnot, if you're unable to make it out, just please say so, okay?
Right. I do have one correction to make, though, before we proceed.
Sure.
I just noticed on attachment 1 that there is a Hancock County farm following my Kossuth County, and the two AB and two Kossuth maps are correct, and then there's a Hancock County map of 2 that are not mine. That's not my phone.
Okay, very, very good. So I'm just going to take a quick look at that. All right, so your exhibit 288 is your exhibit, and you believe on there is, bottom line, if there's reference to any farm in Hancock County, that should be disregarded because that's not associated with you.
Correct.
All right, very good. That's probably the fastest way to deal with that. Okay, ma'am, I would offer exhibit 288.
No objection. Seeing no objection, the board will admit.
All right, and in terms of those updates, or I should say the changes you might have, others may ask you about those, but I'm going to pass you for cross-examination, okay?
Mr. Taylor?
Thank you. Ma'am, I'm Wally Taylor. I represent the Sierra Club, and let me ask you first, do you own this property by yourself?
Yes, it's part of a trust.
Okay.
But my son is the only other person that is my only descendant, plus 2 granddaughters.
Okay. Have you been the person who has dealt with any agents or representatives from Summit?
Yes, I'm the sole person. I hear people talk about contact lists. I don't even know where that is. I live in Chicago, so it's doubtful that they would have made any trips here at peril of their lives. And I talked, I think, twice on the phone. And once at the beginning when Cody Parr first called, and I think later on when I picked it up by mistake, but otherwise they've all gone to voicemail, multiple voicemails.
Okay. Well, Summit witnesses in this hearing have testified that Summit has worked in good faith with landowners to try to work through issues and concerns. Has that been your experience?
Well, of course, we've had no contact about that, so therefore I can't really answer that because, again, based on one phone conversation, and that was after 2 years ago when the papers went out, and I was furious. I mean, I was just absolutely hopping mad. And I commend everybody else here who's given testimony with such equanimity because that isn't me. So when I called him, it was like, I'm never signing this, so forget it. I know, and I knew that they could probably come on regardless whether I gave them permission for the surveying, and there was nothing I could do about it because being an out-of-state landowner, I'm a sitting duck for everything. I mean, I really am. The only thing I'll say is this land is precious to me. I mean, it's as precious as my grandchildren.
Yeah.
I would voluntarily. I will never surrender it, particularly the Chinese Communist Party is involved in it as a major investor. I mean, this is outrageous. I mean, you have no idea. I live under Chicago. Oh, let me tell you, I know what it's like, tyranny, the boots in the neck, believe me, and how you can be targeted if you've got the wrong opinion about anything. So, anyway, I'll get off my soapbox.
Okay, let me ask another question. So, did you ever talk with any Summit agent or representatives about any alternative routes for the pipeline through your property?
No, but I noticed the previous testimony by Henry Schoenfeld. He's like 3 or 4 parcels down from me. He proposed the same route that I do, and he's got the same attitude I do. I'm not signing, over my dead body. I'll whatever you want to do, I'm not letting it go. But he suggested going south, which is, it's easy. You just bore it under the road. My neighbor to the immediate east he's very pro pipeline. I'm made to understand that, before they even offered it, he wanted in, so they could put the borehole on the east side, go under the road, and go clear across. And not only that, I think there's a couple of landowners in between that haven't signed either. You could go that whole thing, and all that I can see, it's Cassuth County Conservation Ground. And quite frankly, I'm sorry, but it looked like it was a bunch of weeds the last time I was there. You're not tearing up the most productive farmland on the earth. Are you kidding me? I mean, this is not about the environment. This is about taking a land, and it's taking and being able to control. Seriously, I mean, it's outrageous. No. It's like, use that. The conservation. Nothing is being disturbed. Nothing. As I said, neighbor would be happy.
What did the Summit representatives say about any alternative route? Did they say they could do that or would do that?
We've never discussed it, so
Okay.
It's fair enough.
Okay. Well, do you think they acted in good faith in dealing with you?
Throughout this whole thing, nobody has acted in good faith. Not only Summit. I mean, when I first got that paper, I called everybody. I called the NS because I thought, well, surely they know what's going on. They hadn't even been contacted. Then I called FSA. No, he said, we don't know anything about this. We just heard about it hearsay, like somebody got a postcard. And then, finally, I called, they suggested, why don't you call the county board supervisor? So I talked to the superintendent, the board supervisor, Casey. He was hopping mad too. He said, they have told us nothing. He said, well, in fact, we're sending a guy to Mason City because we hear that there's a meeting there. We haven't even been told. So that was a real red flag. So then I started calling Farm Bureau thinking for sure they would help me. Oh, no. I mean, I called Farm Bureau and I said, what is this? And what are you going to do about it? Oh, well, essentially they told me to go fish. Then it was a matter of insurance. Then I found out I didn't have any liability insurance. And I said, are you kidding me? As an out-of-state landowner, they're going to come after me. I mean, a little old lady, really. So anyhow, I mean, I was so angry. I mean, it's like, so I canceled my Farm Bureau, and I would cancel my membership if it weren't for the Farm Bureau spokesman newspaper. That's really well done. It's the only reason I'm keeping it. They would not answer my question about liability, and yet I went to another insurer who I wasn't even a client of yet. And I said, well, I gave them the whole spiel about what it is. They said, unfortunately, no, we're not. Well, at least they were honest. The Farm Bureau, again, told me to go fish. So I knew, it's like, oh, the fix is on. Well, then I didn't, I went ahead and I called Johnny Urs and Glossie's office. Yeah, I got the same thing. Nobody was there to defend the landowners. I mean, how outrageous is that? The fix was on. I could see it. And, at the time, I didn't understand this. It's like, okay, believe me, living in Chicago, Illinois, I know about political payoffs and the pay to play. But I couldn't believe it was happening in Iowa, of all places. Well, I'm no different now. Because, again, once I found out about the information just within the last month of the major ownership, then all the dots began to connect. And if you remember, it was like Ms. Frieder's testimony several weeks ago. She said,
Objection,
why
Your Honor. Go ahead and state your objection.
I'm going to object to this lengthy narrative as non-responsive to the question, which is whether or not Summit Land Agents dealt with her in good faith.
Mr. Taylor?
I'll ask another question.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Have you got a tenant who farms your land?
yes,
Summit witnesses have talked about how they'll restore the land after construction and that any tile will be repaired. Have you talked to your tenant about those issues and his view of that?
well, yes, I have. And the thing is, where the pipeline is going, because that's a gentle slope, in other words, the property slopes from north to south. So the most productive soil, 4 feet deep of black soil, is right where that pipeline is. That's the most productive on the whole farm. There's tile on there, but nobody knows where it is. We don't have any map. But the thing is, we do know there's tile there because even though it's the lowest spot, it drains well. So there's, so, and he doesn't have any faith, and I don't either, that this is going to be restored. I mean, put it across the road. You're not, it's like, you're not destroying anything, but you're impacting my livelihood right there. It's outrageous.
It doesn't look like from the map that there are any occupied structures near your land. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. I think that's all the questions I have.
Ms. Gruenhagen?
Thank you, Your Honor. All right, I just have a few questions to clarify your testimony here. My name is Chris Gruenhagen, and I represent the Iowa Farm Bureau Federation. And we've never met before, correct?
Correct.
And we've never had any conversations?
No.
Okay. On page 4 of your testimony, you talk about Dakota Access.
Yes.
And you discuss how farmers have successfully litigated land that was permanently affected by Dakota Access. And,
yes.
then you have C attachment. Is there a lawsuit that you've attached to that?
Yes, there was Janet Holmes of my senior moments with Ag out of Algona. She was tasked with the job of putting that together. And yes, there was a group of landowners, and the whole thing, that attachment, which again I couldn't. I had to depend on somebody else to upload it, and I don't even know that I got it to the proper office to be uploaded. But yes, there was a whole. In fact, he talked to a preliminary about being an expert witness on my behalf about this very thing. because it did, they didn't come back. I mean, it did lower the CSR, the farm, and that's what's going to happen here.
So, ma'am, the source of that information is someone by the name of Janet Holmes.
Yes, maybe I can.
Is she another landowner?
No, she's let me see here if I can find her. Is that helpful if I look for it? I mean, if you want that, I mean, I have it here somewhere.
Would your counsel be able to help identify if there's an attachment that includes that information?
This would be the ISU study of Dapple Row on farm north of property. And this was from Janet Holmes at Ag Advisory, I think at Ag Advisors. I sent this to I hoped it was, again, because
that's very thank you, that's very helpful. You're referencing the ISU studies that are attached, but was there any litigation that you've attached?
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think it was an actual case that was put there. Okay. But I'm sure we'll find it because I know the litigants was very generous in wanting and saying that anybody can use this if they need it to as testimony or evidence for what can happen.
Great. And you also talk about the experience with Dakota Access. Are you again referencing those studies, or do you have personal experience?
No, I do not have personal experience.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. And then you say you reside in Chicago?
Yes.
Do you get to visit Iowa very often?
Well, I used to come every year and spend a week, but now I can't drive anymore these distances like that, and so I'm dependent upon my son. We were going to come this year, but things came up, so I couldn't come.
So have you been in Iowa over the last 2 years?
2 years ago I was. Yes, 2 years ago.
Okay. And you testify on page 39 that you actively participated in the past legislative session?
No, that is not. I didn't.
Oh, you did not? Okay.
No, I didn't.
So that's not correct.
Yeah, because I thought, well, the most important thing was get rid of those Hancock family. The farm that was on there, so I didn't bother with those little things. No. Okay. I mean, if you want to go into other things, no, it's not my parents, it was my great-grandparents that, was in another testimony. But no, I was not there.
Okay. Thanks for the clarification. And then on the Exhibit H, did you receive a copy of that filing? It would have been in July from the law firm Frederickson & Byron. You said yes?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I did.
In that Exhibit H, it does not list a farm tenant. Did you ever provide the name of your farm tenant to Summit?
No, they never asked.
Okay. But you did not provide that?
No.
Okay. Did you receive a copy of the informational letter from the Iowa Utilities Board a couple years ago?
I probably did, yeah.
Okay. Would it have asked in that letter or a letter from Summit, would they have asked for that information from you?
I don't recall, to tell you the truth. I mean, if anything, it would ask for information. Typically, I've responded to. By this time, I'd hired legal counsel right away because I can't. This is not my first rodeo with eminent domain. And I've been through this before in Indiana where I could represent myself. Well, that's not going to happen anymore. So I assume that whatever would need to be done. But I don't remember, to tell you the truth, whether or not I was ever asked. I would have submitted it, I know. But again, maybe I didn't see it, or if it was small print, and I'm out of luck.
Okay. So on page 45, where you talk about how your tenant was not properly notified,
right.
Would you agree that would be difficult to notify a tenant if they weren't aware of the tenant?
Yes. I mean, I don't dispute that. Okay. I don't know being asked by anybody, which I would freely have given it.
Okay. And so, would you be willing to do that now?
Oh, sure. Yes.
Okay. So, who is your farm tenant?
Ray and Alan Ludwig.
Okay. Does he farmland in the area as well?
Yes.
Okay. Very good. Well, thank you for your time. Appreciate it. And no further questions.
Ms. Colas?
Good morning, Miss Centliver. I think that's correct. I'm Jean Colas, Colas Family Farms. I just have a few questions. Has your tenant mentioned concern about farming around the pipeline?
No.
Is he aware of the pipeline going in?
Yes.
Okay then. You mentioned there's a gentle slope from north to south. How much of a slope is that?
Well, it's not highly erodible. It's just gentle. So, in other words, it just means that over time, all of that it's just richer at the bottom than it is on that slight slope. And when I asked, specifically what that slope might be, my tenant couldn't really say. It was, it's not highly erodible or even close to being. So, it slopes down from St. Benedict.
Do you have any confidence in Summit building and constructing a pipeline safely?
No. No, I don't.
Do you believe that they can maintain it and operate it safely?
No. Well, the thing is, it's hard to find good help nowadays, which I guess, I've heard other witnesses say that they went through a number of land agents. So, this is a different world now. And people don't take the same kind of care in their work and pride and workmanship that they did, 30, 40 years ago. So, no, I don't. And actually, I will even, I don't even necessarily lay that piece on Summit. I just know how people are nowadays. When you try to call them that, maintain something or do something, it's half-assed. I'm sorry.
Do you think this is for the public convenience or benefit?
There has been nothing that has shown me that is for it is either a public utility or a public convenience. I mean, if this is a public utility, then I'm a public utility because I sit. I mean, that's, I pay taxes. That's, no, I don't.
With the area where the pipeline is, putting your land out of production for a period of time, is this going to impact your income and support? You mentioned you were disabled.
Objection,
Yes.
Your Honor.
State the objection.
Asked and answered. The ninth question of all these sets of testimony asks about dependency on the income from the land. The reduction in yield and impact to soils are discussed on pages 4, 15, 37, 38, 40, 41, 43, and in attachments 9 and 10.
Ms. Colas?
I don't know, in your pre-testimony, you mentioned a lot of concern about foreign ownership and in the easement agreement where it gave them the right to transfer or to sell the easement area in perpetuity.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't think anybody realizes the impact of that. I mean, it's true. That it can blow up and there can be devastating consequences. But I'll tell you what the devastating consequences are when the Chinese take over. 30% with 10% with South Korea. You think that, what is it? Mrs. Frieder said, it looks like, why do they need an easement forever? And what's the long-term plan? Well, I can tell you. I've got a Chinese communist cell 3 miles from where I sit right now. They're putting a $2 billion factory in Kankakee, Illinois, which people are trying to fight. They're putting a bug processing factory outside of Decatur, Illinois. I mean, this, I live in a communist state and a communist city. And I mean, I know what terror tactics are, and what happens when you don't agree. Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, there's a lot of risk here. A lot of long-term risk to our generations. Yes, it's really true.
you're concerned about their access to the pipeline of over 2,000 miles through the heartland.
Yeah. Well, think about it. If the Chinese already own 384,000 and they're increasing all the time. Now, thank God, Dakota and South Dakota and Illinois, well, they will cave, but I mean, it's like they're going to have control over 2,700. I mean, how many hundreds of thousands of acres in addition to the 384,000 they own will they control? That's what this is about. I mean, the 4Q tax credits. I mean, that will make it fast, okay. But that's not the long-term plan here. I mean, that was really evident, particularly when I saw that nobody was willing to stand up for farmers. They'd all been paid off, which is, it's politics. I understand that. But no, pisses me off.
So you have great concern that this will allow someone that is not, how am I going to say this? You're concerned about some type of terrorist activity happening along the pipeline that could cause permanent destruction or damage to some of our best cropland in the United States.
Well, let me be clear. I am now classified as a terrorist, just so you know. Yeah. As a traditional Catholic, according to the FBI, I'm a terrorist. So I guess by owning this, I'm a terrorist. So, I mean, I don't look for I'm looking for justice. And the only justice is going to come is from God, because I got to tell you, any farmer knows that there's no occupation on earth that depends more upon the grace of God than farming. I mean, everything depends upon that. It's His grace to make it rain, the terrorist would be me. yeah, because there's no due process. Yeah, but if you haven't noticed, and there's principles of evidence in courts, it's meaningless now. Every so often you get a nice judge who hasn't been taken, but then it's overturned when you get, to appellate higher courts.
So I'm getting the impression that you view this pipeline as being similar to a Trojan horse in the center of the United States.
Yes, it is. Very definitely.
Thank you. No further questions.
Ms. Hike?
Hello, I'm Chris Hike. I am a landowner. Just a quick question. You talked about the easement and selling it in perpetuity. What is it concerning you with the easement granting access to your land? 50-foot, unlimited, what?
Well, to me,
State the objection.
I don't think there was a question asked there. To the extent there was, this pre-filed testimony goes on for pages about problems with the easement.
Ms. Hike?
If she wanted to clarify in her testimony about that is what I was asking.
What did you want clarified again?
Hold on.
About granting access to your land through the easement.
Can you clarify what you're looking for from the pre-filed?
Just your concern of the access to that.
Can you narrow your question down, what you're looking for from the pre-filed testimony, please?
I just wanted a clarification on the easement granting unlimited access to your land. For my clarification.
Okay, we're trying not to be harsh. It's
Well,
so
just
much
forget
of it.
it. Just forget it.
Okay. Thank you. If there are no other questions, then Mr. Jordy for redirect.
Yes. So Farm Bureau was asking you to publicly name here the identity of your tenant. Do you have any idea why they would want to know the name of your tenant?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Okay. And you were asked a question if you actively participated in legislation, like eminent domain reform. Obviously, you weren't physically in Iowa, but you were certainly supportive of those efforts and participated in various calls around those efforts. Is that fair?
Oh, yeah. Right. Oh, yes, yes,
Okay.
definitely.
And then in relation to Janet Holmes, we have a series of photographs of her work on the DAPL pipeline showing, basically what was promised and then actually what it looked like. Were you referencing all of that destruction?
Yes. Plus, that there should be, and I thought I'm not sure the court case or the legal proceedings were included. What you gave me, but that would be accessible if it's necessary.
And with court proceedings or litigation, were you referencing farmers and landowners on DAPL who were made promises that weren't kept and then had problems trying to get compensated or made whole?
Yes.
All right. And so you've talked to your tenant, and your tenant thinks that he might be able to, I think the phrase was, farm around the pipeline. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then your reference to China, so you're concerned not only about the investors that have been disclosed, but also the investors in the investors and the different layers.
Yes.
All right. And I think you were maybe referencing like the People's Republic of China, or the Chinese investment fund that is invested kind of surreptitiously through other investors in this project.
Correct.
Okay. Let's see here. And ultimately, I take it from your testimony that you're taking a very long-term view on the future of what you want your land to be like in the state of Iowa generally, and don't believe that this project on its stated or alleged purposes or future purposes fits in with your long-term views.
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, no, there's nothing about this. It doesn't even make sense. It never did. I mean, I know common sense is, in short supply nowadays. But from day one, nothing made sense about this. It just doesn't.
And then if we can zoom out on that KMZ map, I just want to make sure we're clear. That's probably good. Ma'am, you had mentioned like another one of your neighbors who is in opposition, a reroute south. And is that ground immediately south of your targeted parcel that looks pretty wet, lots of water? Is that the conservation area?
Yes, that's my understanding. And I guess it clear across there to, again, Henry Schump, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he has a parcel along there too. And his route that he suggests was the same one that I'm suggesting. And go over, and he specifically mentioned Kossuth County Conservation Ground, so he's got to be close by there, because that's what he wants.
So essentially going like a half mile or mile south of you believe obviously would get it off your property, but also others who are opposed. And then do you know if that's a state or federal ground? It must be state.
Yeah. Again, I didn't think it'd have to go a half mile. I thought it just looked like it's just across the road. I think that's 180th Avenue, 180th Street.
Okay.
You bore under the road, and as I told you, my neighbor to the east is a big component of it, so he would take, I'm sure he wouldn't mind having the borehole underneath his property. It goes clear across. I just don't want it on mine. So, I mean, that is the fair alternative route that's not ripping up, the finest farmland on the planet and destroying the food, which is what this is about, reducing the food consumption. We're going to eat bugs. Yeah.
So to be clear, it's not like a half mile reroute. It's simply just moving it across the road south of your property.
Yeah, just across the road. And I think that's what Henry said too. If I would.
All right. Okay, well, I appreciate your testimony and clarification. I don't have any more questions for you.
Sorry. Thank you, Ms. Santley, we appreciate your testimony. Okay, hold on real quick. Sorry, I guess I should confirm. Do you have any more?
I was able to, I'm hoping, is Lance. Yeah, I was able to get one more here last kind of minute. Lance Kletchner, who's at Crawford County, and he would be appearing virtually.
Thank you.